bit about the differences between burnout, uh, compassion fatigue, and vicarious trauma. Okay, so that we have like a baseline and we know we are talking about the same. Burnout can be something that can happen to anyone. Anyone in any job can suffer burnout. Usually, it's the circumstances of the work, whether it's a job that is very demanding, whether it is too many hours of work, whether it's lack of resources, a bad boss, a bad team. All those kind of things can kind of give people a situation in which they feel burnout over time. Um, and burnout may lead to a stressful work environment. This is the situations that lead to burnout: excessive hours, lack of acknowledgement at work, bad management, and too much high demanding job. Burnout can be worked out by talking to somebody, by making decisions of changing what you're doing. Maybe perhaps talking with someone at your job or at your home, because burnout can also happen at home, right? You're doing too much at home to get the help that you need. And if you feel that you need more help, going to a therapist may be helpful as well. I tend to recommend seeing therapists that for these kind of things, right? That really help on changing habits, and that they help you to set out goals for yourself and a very kind of objective to how to get that. So it's a cognitive psychologists or social workers tend to be the ones that can work on these habits that will make the changes quickly. But sometimes you can be burned out about ideas that you have about yourself, and that may take to investigate a little bit about your own belief system. And what do you think? I always have to be perfect. I always have to be responsive. I always have to do these kind of things that were ingrained probably growing up, ideas that you grew up with that may take into getting burnout. Now, compassion fatigue, and this is the one that I'm going to extend on more because I think this is for healthy professions is the most common kind of situation and what we really need to pay attention to. So compassion fatigue affects a large range of caregivers. It usually happens, or anybody that is in the healing professions or helping professions, and it's the response or psychological response to the emotional impact that you get from working and helping others. So you are working with people that need a lot of help themselves. Sometimes the resources are not there. You feel bad about it. You hear their stories, they're very difficult. You feel bad about it. And eventually, over time, it burns you out. Now, this compassion fatigue is very specific to people that are helping. So recently I was speaking to someone that had moved from the corporate world into the social industry, helping people. And we were talking, I said, be careful with compassion fatigue. I see that you are seeing a lot of people, you are hearing their problems and how things are in their lives. And over time, these stories are going to start taking a toll on you. So keep an eye on that. It's a little bit more than burnout. It's kind of a lot more emotional and so on. So, for example, different situations that may lead to compassion fatigue. First of all, listening to different clients' stories, being threatened when you are providing care. This is not uncommon, right? You are helping someone that is having, for example, mental health issues or addiction issues. They are not themselves, and they may be aggressive when you are providing them services. Providing care for someone that may be depressed, suicidal, people experiencing losses, mourning, or someone that is experiencing illness. All of those stories that do take a lot on you. Working in an unsafe work environment. Sometimes, for example, if people work at shelters, it may be, even though there is safety, they may feel unsafe because of the population they are serving. They are not in the right place at that time, and it may feel that, or happens a lot with people that are case managers that go and visit people at their houses right? They have to go to neighborhoods in which things may be happening. Sometimes I've heard about caregivers that have to go with the police to visit someone, and that creates a lot of stress on your own feelings that are hard to work with. The other piece is when people do witness something that happened, an act of violence. Let's say somebody that is responding to domestic violence, and they witness what is going on at home. They witness the children being mistreated. They witness all those kind of situations can cause a lot of emotional burnout as well, leading to compassion fatigue. Ways in which the compassion fatigue shows: first of all, mood swings. Also withdrawal from social connections. People that are not realizing they have compassion fatigue and are not treating that may want to go home and not see anybody, because their work takes on so much pressure, stress, and emotional toll. They may say, I don't want to go out this weekend. You start withdrawing from your friends, your family, and your social connections. Becoming numb to your client's suffering. You hear so much about it that over time you feel like, okay, just tell me what's going on. I'll help you with what I can, and I'm numbing myself so I don't have to feel these feelings, which are absolutely natural for people to feel. Then other one is addiction. Sometimes it happens, and inability to separate your professional and personal life. So as we were hearing as an example, and some of the people that were in the previous workshop were saying that they work with people and they take that home with them, and they can't separate it. The feelings that they are experiencing at their job are being carried into their personal lives and their family lives. People may experience having trouble being productive because the emotions are taking over. There may be signs of depression, insomnia, digestion issues, physical fatigue, and so on. So for compassion fatigue, normally getting some professional help will be recommended. And for people that are, for example, supervising others that are having a lot of difficulties managing the feelings, it's very important to keep an eye and say, do you need some help? And connect them with the resources that may be available for them.
I think in a lot of times we do when we care. You tend to have a hard time separating professional and personal.
Right. And I think sometimes it's okay to carry on that as long as it's not affecting you personally.
Personally, yeah.
Right? So if you know how to manage it, and it sounds to me like you are very good at separating things and have learned a way to not carry this with you, or not constantly feel bad for the same person that is not able to find those resources that you are trying to help them with or do it on their own. But then also, you still feel the compassion.
Yeah.
It's just that you have been able to kind of like say, okay, well, this is as much as I can do, and this is enough, right? I used to be in crisis services for a long time, and there were so many things that were so sad and would take over your life if you thought about people's stories and the injustices that they have been through and the things that had happened to them. And it was really hard to reconcile that, to kind of feel. And one day I started saying to myself, okay, so the thing that I can do is to tell myself, if I wasn't here today, this person wouldn't have had anybody to hear the story. And if it's only that I can do today, it's a little bit better than when the person had before walking in the door. And it seems such a small piece, but in reality, for people, it means so much, right? We're going to talk about vicarious trauma just for a little bit, because I know a little bit about trauma, but I'm not a therapist. But vicarious trauma is also known as secondary trauma. Some people just like to call it plain trauma. And it's what happens when you are exposed to traumatic stories of other people, right? What happens is in the brain is that our brain tends to be visual. So when we get to a story about what happened, your brain is going to picture it in a way that thinks it happened. And that's going to happen is that image of what's happening. Let's say I had an accident or I was raped or something like that, and I'm telling you the story. Is that the way our brain is going to process it is going to be this image, and it's going to seem like it's happening to ourselves. We are in that situation at that moment. Not that it's happening to ourselves, but we are in that situation at the moment, and that can create trauma. And over time, other people's traumatic experience can be passed on into our own lives, right? And we may absorb it in such a way that we end up traumatized, and we may have trouble sleeping and having the same reactions that other people may have, like the people that have been through the trauma have. So we will be exploring on some things that can be done. A lot of it has to do with grounding and kind of like being present in the moment instead of your mind, because as you may know, if you were to put the brain in a jar and you were to send the signals, the brain wouldn't be able to distinguish what is real from what is not. It's a wonderful machine, but at the same time, whatever the brain thinks as an organ separately is what it perceives as reality. So I don't know if anybody has any questions about vicarious trauma. I'm not gonna go more into it because I'm not an expert, but if anybody feels like they have been exposed and they are suffering from trauma from hearing the stories, definitely advise you to go to get some sort of therapy so you can work things through. It's absolutely normal to have vicarious trauma if you hear traumatic stories. Psychologists, psychotherapists, and social workers are working on that constantly.